Anyway, we're learning Parshas Behar. Parshas Behar is a parsha with many topics, starting out with, of course, the mention of Har Sinai. And then it talks about the mitzvah of Shemitah, talks about the mitzvah of Yovel, which is the Jubilee year, the 50th year, talks about the transactions between people. A person cannot be dishonest in their transactions. Talks about a person who might have to redeem their field if they sold it, redeem their house if they sold it, redeem their I forget what else, house, field, and one other thing. And
You're froze, Rabbi.
Talks about a Canaanite slave. A Canaanite slave is actually not supposed to be redeemed. It's supposed to remain slaves. And then last but not least, it talks about a Jew who sells himself to a non-Jew. It's a mitzvah for his relatives to redeem him, so he should not be in that state. And it also talks about the almost like the worst possible situation where he is sold to an idol worshiping house, which means, that he is like the shamus in a house of pagan worship. And in that case, also the Jews, the family especially, is encouraged to redeem him. And then the parsha ends with Eshabsoisai Tishmaru, guard my Shabbos, Umigdashi Tiro, and fear my Beis HaMikdash. Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. Now, this parsha is always read around the time of Lag BaOmer, sometimes before, sometimes after. And this year, of course, it is read just before Lag BaOmer. We enter into Lag BaOmer on Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night, after we read this parsha. And of course, Lag BaOmer, just to refresh your memory, is the day, first of all, on which the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died during this period, which is why Ezra has a beard. Not that I want to embarrass you or anything, but that's why we don't take haircuts during this time period. Don't get married, don't listen to music. And they stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, according to some opinions.
I was going to say, Ezra, you look great.
Yes, indeed, especially with that bridge in the background. It saves a lot of time, by the way.
What did you say?
Imagine all the time you save if you don't shave. Like you save a few minutes every day. That adds up in the course of 70, 80, 100 years. You can use that time hopefully positively. Anyway.
Rabbi, I didn't hear what he said twice. What did you say, Ezra?
I said, don't get used to it.
Oh.
It looks good. It looks good.
I think it looks great. Look at all the time you save. My rabbi in the yeshiva said, every mitzvah you have to do something except growing your beard. You just don't do anything and you get a mitzvah every day.
Right. And you scratch every single day because of it.
That's only when it's short.
No, thank you.
That's only when it's short. That's only when it's double. It grows in.
So the point is that it's also the day of the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he asked that should be a day of rejoicing rather than sadness. He taught a lot of teachings on that day. So it's a day of great revelation. Many people go to Miron to celebrate by his gravesite. It's not really going to be so possible this year. Hashem should help in future years. We should have total success over our enemies. We should have Mashiach. We should have B'Shem Bar Yochai himself back.
Amen.
But anyway, the point is that we also read Pirkei Avos in this week's Parsha. And it so happened, during these Parshiyos, I should say, during this time between Pesach and Shavuos. And we're going to be reading the fourth Mishnah, the fourth chapter of that set of Mishnah, where we have a teaching of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Nothing that happens is ever a coincidence. Everything is prearranged and ordained by Hashem. So the fact that we're reading the teaching of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on Shabbos afternoon, Jews around the world are going to read this teaching of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai mere minutes before his Yortzeit begins. That's not an accident. So let's read the Mishnah, which I put into the handout. So the Mishnah says,
Is this in an email?
I think I sent out the email. Do you all get the email?
I
got
looked, I didn't see anything. Oh, yeah. When was it from today?
Today, a mere couple of hours ago.
your spam, check your trash.
Behar, вот здесь есть.
You have it?
I received it.
Я ее вижу вот здесь. Я ее вижу.
You all have it?
Behar. Yeah.
Excellent. So, this is found in Mishnah 13, by the way, of the fourth chapter. Rabbi Shimon says, Shloisha Ksorim, there are three crowns. Keser Torah, the crown of Torah. Keser Kahuna, the crown of Kahuna. The Keser Malchus, and the crown of kingship. Torah is, of course, a Torah scholar. Is the crown of Torah. Keser Kahuna is like the Kohen Gadol. And Keser Malchus is especially for the kings of the house of David. The Keser Shem Tov Oila al Gabehen, the crown of a good name, goes above all of them. Meaning to say, a good name is your reputation. People have heard of you as a good person, reliable person, trustworthy person, kind person. That is oila al gabehen, that goes above all three of those. If you're a Torah scholar, but you don't have a good name, that's not the point of being a Torah scholar. You're missing the point. You need to mute you
Я не
all.
вижу.
Personal. Feel free to unmute yourself as needed. So, a person can be a Kohen, he can be a Kohen Gadol, but again, if his lifestyle is not one that gives him a good name, again, that crown is something to be desired, is missing. And the same thing with a king. Keser Shem Tov, the best, most important crown that goes above all the other three, is the Keser Shem Tov, the crown of a good name, which is, of course, associated with your actions, the way you act, the way people perceive you, your impact on the world at large. Now, what's interesting is that Rabbi Shimon, who is teaching this Mishnah, it doesn't say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but whenever the Mishnah says Rabbi Shimon, it means Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And now I'm going to teach you something you may have never learned before. Can't say never because you have such wonderful classes. Maybe one of your teachers taught this to you. But the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah that there is not one chapter of Mishnah in the entire 6 orders of the Mishnah There is not one chapter of Mishnah that does not mention Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, according to the Gemara, was a person who was Tairosai Unnasai. That means his Torah was his craft. He had no other care in the world, no other interest, no other occupation other than Torah. And he said, that's really the best. If you can possibly learn Torah all day, that would be the best. Now you may ask, how are you going to support yourself? After all, we read in the Shema 3 times a day, that you need to gather in your grain and your oil and your wine. You have to work in the field. And of course, you also learn. But how could you learn all day? Who's going to support you? Who's going to support your family? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, if you merit, if you merit, then your work gets done by other people, and they support you, or they invest your money for you, whatever it is, and you can just learn Torah all day. To the extent that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, or excuse me, for a person like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who is learning all day, in fact, such a person is even exempt from davening. Davening is a rabbinic mitzvah, and a person who is learning all day does not have to interrupt for that rabbinic mitzvah. They have to interrupt for Shema, just to say the Shema, because that's a Torah obligation, and a person has to fulfill all Torah obligations, but that's it, just the Shema. Once every 30 days, at least, they should stop to daven too, but you don't have to daven every day if you're on that level. By the way, don't get any ideas, even if you go to every single class that Rabbi Smith offers and more, you still have to daven every day, because we don't have anybody alive today on the level of Shimon Bar Yochai who did nothing else other than learn. Even people who are koilel people, they'll go to the store here and there, they'll make themselves an egg here and there. So if you can interrupt to do other things, you certainly have to interrupt to daven. But if you're like Shimon Bar Yochai, where all you do is learn and eat carob and learn some more, then you're on that level where you don't have to daven. So it's interesting that this same Shimon Bar Yochai, who is so sold on the importance of Torah study, pure Torah study, highest level Torah study, comes along and says, no, that's not the highest level. That is secondary. The highest level is Keseh Shem Tov, is the crown of a good name. Now, of course, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai holds that you also have to do action mitzvahs. There's no question. Like I said before, you have to interrupt for the Shema, and for every other action mitzvah, you have to interrupt to eat matzah, sit in the sukkah, build a sukkah if that's necessary, and everything else. Because a person who learns and does not observe is a hypocrite. What is his learning worth if he doesn't observe his learning? He's learning all day about mitzvahs, and then when it comes to time to do the mitzvahs, he says, I'm too busy. I can't do them because I'm learning. So what are you learning for? You may as well give it all up. The learning isn't worth anything. So you have to interrupt and do the mitzvahs. There's no question about it. But nevertheless, the question remains, why does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai say that the crown of the good name is more important and it goes above even Torah learning? Why don't we say, mitzvahs are important and you have to do them, and if you don't do them, it means your Torah learning is not sincere. But as long as you do them, obviously Torah learning is the highest level, because that's really the way you can connect to Hashem in the deepest way, You have Hashem in your mind. Your mind is connected with Hashem's mind. The Torah is one with Hashem, and the Torah is one with you, because your mind has the Torah in it. So you are unified with Hashem in the best possible way. The Gemara says, it's foolish for a person to stand up when a Torah scroll is brought into a room, but to remain seated when a Torah scholar walks into the room. Because the Torah scholar is a walking Torah scroll. He has the Torah in his head. And more than just the written Torah, he has the oral Torah too. So if he walks into the room, you have to stand up like a Torah scroll. So that would seem to be a higher level. But no, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says the highest level is the Keser Shem Tov, the crown of the good name. So here's the concept, my friends. Ultimately, the purpose of our creation in this world, and this is a concept that Lubavitch Rebbe expounds upon in numerous places and from numerous angles and avenues. Ultimately, the purpose that we're here in this world for is to make a dwelling place for Hashem, to bring godliness into every aspect of this world. And this can only be fulfilled by involvement in this world and involvement in a Torah way. And this is connected to the Parsha, because I started off by going through the Parsha and all the topics in the Parsha. And the Parsha is connected to the time of year we're in. So if you read the Parsha right before Lag BaOmer, it's connected to Rabbi Shimon and his lessons. And the Parsha really, it's kind of like a depressing Parsha, because it starts off so high and elevated. Har Sinai, all of the mitzvahs are given from Har Sinai, Shemitah, trusting in Hashem. If you're nervous, what are you going to eat if you can't work the field? And Shemitah, and sometimes 2 years Shemitah. And Hashem says, don't worry, I'm going to bless you, and the 6th year is going to produce for 4 years. 6th, 7th, 8th, and sometimes even the 9th if you have Yovel afterwards. So that's such a high level. But then it kind of goes downhill from there. We read about not cheating somebody. Obviously, he's a person who might otherwise cheat if you don't tell him. We read about a person who's so poor he has to sell his property, he has to redeem it. He has to sell himself, he's so poor, redeem him. He's so poor and he's so desperate, he sells himself to a Gentile and even to a house of pagan worship. Wow. Can you get lower than that? How do you go from Har Sinai, in the beginning of the Parsha, all the way to a custodian of a church or whatever other house of pagan worship you choose, or this guy chooses? How do you have that in the same Parsha? But the Parsha finishes with Eshabsoisei Tishmoru Umigdashi Tiro. Guard my Shabbos and fear my sanctuary, I am Hashem. And the message is, no matter what situation you find yourself in, no matter that it seems that your situation is so low, you seem to be so disconnected, you're sold from your people, you seem to be connected to another religion, at least externally. No, you're not. You're still connected to Hashem. You still have to observe Shabbos. You still have to fear the Mikdash, the sanctuary. And Ani Hashem, Hashem says, I am still your God. You must observe the mitzvahs no matter what difficult situation you're in. And this is really the same concept that we're mentioning about making a dwelling place for Hashem. It's easy to make a dwelling place for Hashem if you're sitting in the Beis Medrash all day and learning, and your physical activities consist of getting up to make a coffee, and you make Hashem's dwelling place by saying the bracha on that coffee with kavana. Okay, that's easy. But what about when you're doing deals and then there's a question, can you cut a little corner here? Do you have to keep your word? You won't even realize. You have to give the commission. Maybe I shouldn't give it. I worked harder than I thought I would. Blah blah blah. All kinds of little thoughts the Yetzer Hara has when you get involved in the physical world. And Hashem says, no, Ani Hashem. I'm the same Hashem in the base medrash, in the shul, and in any environment you're in, even in the house of pagan worship. I am Hashem. So this is the connection to the parsha with the lesson of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, despite his great spiritual loftiness, he also recognized the need to bring the spirituality down to the physical world. And we see that from what happened after he came out of the cave. Everybody knows Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was in a cave for 12 years because he spoke out against the Roman government. The Gemara says there was a conversation between three rabbis. One rabbi, his name was Rebbe Behar, he said, the Romans, they're great. They make bridges, they make bathhouses, they make streets. We love them. I'll take your question in a moment. The other rabbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, said, no, they do it for themselves. They make bathhouses because they want to make prostitution houses. They make bridges and roads because they want to take the tolls. It's all about themselves, nothing else. And Rabbi Yossi was silent. So the Romans said, Rabbi Yehuda, who spoke good about us, he's going to be the head of the first speaker of the Sanhedrin, because they had control over that evidently. Rabbi Shimon, who spoke bad about us, is going to be killed. And Rabbi Yossi, who was silent, has to go into exile. Yes, your question.
Yes, Rabbi, the pasuk from Pirkei Avos that you addressed, the crown of Torah is specific. The crown of priesthood is specific. The crown of royalty is specific. Okay, you either have it or you don't. It's black and white. The crown of a good name, I think I understand the general message here, but it's unlike the other crowns. The crown of a good name is non-specific, and that's somewhat of a challenge to know when you have adopted that crown and that crown resides within you.
Yes,
So,
it's a lifelong goal, and it's hard to say that you can ever reach it, but it's a lifelong goal, yes. It's not a box that you can tick. It's something you always have to be working on. No question about it.
I think that dichotomy between the other crowns and the crown of a good name is, I think it's important to make that distinction, as you just pointed out, about you can't just check a box.
Yes,
You have to
that's
embrace
true.
your life.
That's true, but I will say that the same is really true about the crown of Torah, and even Kahuna and Malchus to a certain degree. A person can never say, I've achieved the crown of Torah, I'm good. Because we don't remember things forever. If we don't review, if we don't keep on learning, that crown is going to slip away. And even Kahuna, there's a certain lifestyle that's expected of a Kohen, a higher level of holiness that he has to maintain in order to be worthy of that crown. He shouldn't just say, I'm born with it and that's it. And the same is true of a king. Even if he is an actual king, his life is supposed to be one of service to the people and not one where the people are serving him and he's just there to be served. So it's really, it's really a lifetime of effort to really have that, even though he has the crown, but to be deserving of it. But certainly the Kesef Shem Tov is something that is more difficult to define and definitely needs a big effort. So, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai ran away. First, he ran away to the women's section of the shul, and his wife was sending him food, but they were nervous that she would be tortured by the Romans and she would give away his location. And eventually he ran away to a cave with the son of Elazar, where they spent 12 years eating carob, a tree that Hashem had miraculously, placed there for him, and drinking water from the nearby spring. There is a cave somewhere in the Golan that they say is his cave. There is a carob tree next to it and a spring next to it, but who really knows? Anyway, after 12 years, when they came out of the cave and they saw that people were just going about their daily lives, plowing and planting, and they could not handle it. They said, if everybody goes and plows and plants, what's going to be with the Torah? And they were so upset about it because they were like on fire with their holiness that everybody they looked at, they burned up. Everywhere they looked, they just created a fire because of their intense spirituality. And Hashem said, did you come out to destroy my world? You have to go back into the cave. He went back into the cave, both of them, and when they came out 1 year later, that's when, even though Rabbi Elazar, everywhere he looked, was burning up, Rabbi Shimon calmed him down, and he said, no, it's enough for this world that you have you and me. You and me are enough in this world, and everybody else, let them be. Especially they were happy when they saw somebody running with 2 myrtle branches. It was Friday afternoon. They said, where are you going? He said, I'm bringing myrtle branches home for Shabbos. Why 2? 1 for Zachar, 1 for Shamar. They were very happy about that. That's why some people get flowers for Shabbos based on that story. And all of the places that Rebbe Elazar burned up, Rabbi Shimon healed. He stopped the fire and so on. Now the Rebbe talks about the number 12 and the number 13. There's significance to that number. That after 12 years, they were not able to accomplish this. Only after 13 years were they able to. So the concept is that really Rabbi Shimon's general path of serving Hashem was one that was completely removed from this world. Like we said, Tairasa Yimnasa, learning only. And that was his focus. And a person who was like that would find it difficult to relate to the common man who's busy running around trying to, work and feed his family. And that's where the burning comes from. Like, here I am burning with a passion for Hashem. And there you are involved in your field and your ox. And it's like incongruous with my lifestyle. But after the 13th year, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai reached a higher level. And this has to do with the number 12 versus the number 13. 12 is a number that's associated with the normal way things are in this world. There's 12 months in the year. There's 12 tribes of the Jewish people. There's 12 constellations. That's like a normal number within nature. The number 13, on the other hand, is associated with a revelation that's beyond nature, which is why we have the 13 midos of Rachamim, the 13 attributes of divine mercy. So after the 13th year, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai reached a higher level. And the higher level that he reached was such that he realized that the work that he's doing and the work that they're doing are not different. They are complementing work, complementing each other, because both of them are essential to making a dwelling place in this world. They are going about and making a dwelling place for Hashem by plowing and planting and doing business, and he is making a dwelling place for Hashem by his intense Torah study. Because it's necessary to have people who are involved in intense Torah study to be the inspiration for the people who are.
We don't hear you, Rabbi.
If all of the Jews, now you hear me?
Yeah, but we
If
missed
all
it.
of the Jews would be plowing and planting, and that's it, how are they going to be inspired to serve Hashem? Where's their inspiration going to come from? They're going to look around and they're all farmers. Farming is good. We have to bring Hashem to this world. But where's the elevation? Where's the sense of connecting to something deeper? So the Jewish people need to have leaders who are Tairasam Umnasam, who are completely involved in Torah, who connect to Hashem in a very deep way, quantitatively and qualitatively. And those leaders are the inspiration for the rest of the people. And the rest of the people, in fact, seeing how those leaders are so involved in Torah, can take an inspiration from them in a small way. The Rebbe says, everybody should have a taste of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's level of Torah study. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai studied Torah, there was nothing else in the world that was important. That's it. Nothing else was important. There was no work. He didn't have any work. There was no involvement in physicality. He didn't have that. So his focus was laser sharp on Torah. Got to shut off my microphone here, making too much noise. So when we say a person should be like Shimon Bar Yochai, what we mean is the time that he has for learning, at least for that time, he should be as focused as Shimon Bar Yochai is. You have 2 hours a day to learn. Give those 2 hours, during those 2 hours, give your full attention to the Torah. Turn the phone off or put it away. Turn your brain off from thinking about all the stuff that is going through your mind and what's going to be with this, what's going to be with that, and I forgot to take care of this, and I forgot to take care of that. No. Tune that all out. Turn on only one station, and that's the Torah learning station. And during those 2 hours, make that your full focus, give that your full attention. And then you will have a taste of Shimon Bar Yochai in your life. But we need a real life Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to inspire us to do that. And that's why I say, that's why the Rebbe says, that you need to have both complementary type of people. The type of people like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai with full-time Torah study, intense, and the type of people like the farmers who are finding Hashem in the earth and in everything they do. And there's no contradiction to that because they're both two sides of the same coin. Inspiration and bringing that inspiration into the rest of the world. So, how does this answer the question? When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai saw the people planting after the 13th year, he could handle it. After the 12th year, he couldn't handle it. After the 13th year, he could handle it. What's the difference? When you look at things from the perspective of the 12, which we said 12 is the natural, normal perspective, the 12 months of the year, constellations, etc. From that perspective, it's hard to be excited and happy with a different kind of worldview and lifestyle than you have, even though you know intellectually that it's also important. But when you're so focused on your type of doing things, it's hard for you to find the beauty in the other person's style and type, which relates also, by the way, to the problem that the students of Rabbi Akiva had. The students of Rabbi Akiva were good people, but they were so intense in their own paths They couldn't see the beauty in the paths of their fellow students. And even Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had that problem after 12 years. It was only after the 13th year he reached a higher level. He reached a level on which it's not about my type of serving Hashem. It's not about me. It's about Hashem. It's about what Hashem wants. Hashem wants both types of people. And I can do my way, and I can also appreciate that somebody else's way is equally important to Hashem. It's not like I'm here and they're there, and I know Hashem needs them, but really, really he needs me. Yeah, he kind of also needs them, but really it's about me. No, 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 no. Hashem needs both types, equal. Everybody is doing something that nobody else can do, and therefore you appreciate that other person for accomplishing what only they can accomplish. And that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai meant when he said, "Dai la'olami ani va'ata." It's enough for the world to have you and me. He didn't mean all Hashem needs is us. Who cares about everybody else? No, on the contrary. He meant the world is important. Everything they're doing is important. What we're doing is important. And by us doing what we're doing, which is intense Torah study, that is le'olami, that is to help the world. Our Torah study is to inspire the world. So all that's needed is to have a few people who can do that inspiration. You and me is enough. Everybody else is doing what they're doing, bringing our level of inspiration into what they're doing. So therefore, their service is also important. This was the level Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai reached after year 13. And it's no coincidence, there's never any coincidences, as you all know, but it's no coincidence that this Mishnah is Mishnah number 13 in the Mishnayos, because it's giving us this lesson of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that he reached in his 13th year. Now, if you read the Mishnah carefully, you'll notice something unusual. It says there are 3 crowns, and then it lists them, Torah, Kahuna, and Malchus. And then it says, oh, the crown of the good name goes on all of them. So are there 3 or are there 4? He says there's 3, but then he lists 4. Torah, Kahuna, kingship, and the good name. So why does he say 3? So the Rebbe explains what the Mishnah is saying is there are 3 crowns, and the crown of the good name is a crown on each of those 3 crowns. It's not a 4th crown. It's the crown above each and every one of those 3 crowns. Meaning to say your Torah should be learned in a way of a good name. They're not separate crowns. Your kahuna should be in a way of a good name. Your malchus should be in a way of a good name. Meaning to say your Torah shouldn't just be about yourself and how much you can learn and how much you can accomplish. And I am Torasa Yumnasa, that's all I do. Your Torah has to also be about other people. What you can do to teach and inspire other people. There should be a good name to your Torah. Your Torah should be spread and should reach the world. So, the same is true of the kahuna. Your kahuna, your leadership in a spiritual way, should not be just about you and your level of kahuna. It should be about how you're helping people with it. Your malchus, your kingship, again, shouldn't be about you. It should be about others, how you can assist others. That's a good name that is on top of each of these crowns. All right, I did a lot of talking. Any feedback, questions, comments? Your Bubby's favorite recipe you wanted to share? No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
Well, I think the last point that you made, Rabbi, kind of answers the same question that I raised before, that uh, that there's without relating the good name to all the three crowns, then it it compromises the validity of those crowns. So without a good name, in summary, I think the message that I took away is that the good name, or the three crowns without the good name integrated with them, is not the way that one should live.
Yes. 100%. I'm with you on that. It's a supplement to each of those crowns. Correct. So I'll just relate this back. Since Rabbi Akiva was a B'Shim Bar Yochai's teacher, I'll relate this back to something it says about Rabbi Akiva, and this is famous. Everybody knows the Gemara says, Arba'a nichnasu lepardes. There were four who entered into the orchard of the Torah. The orchard of the Torah is referring to the deep, mystical, Kabbalistic secrets that are found in the Torah. Pardes stands for Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Soid, the simple level of the Torah, the allegorical level of the Torah, the Remez, which is what, the hints, what the Torah is hinting to in different ways, Gematria and Rosh Tevas, so on. And finally, the Soid, the secret, mystical aspect of the Torah. Four people entered into the Pardes, the Gemara says. Unfortunately, three of them did not come out in the best way. Ben Zoima, if I'm not mistaken, Ben Zoima was the one who went crazy. Ben Azai is the one who passed away. Elisha ben Avuya became a heretic. And Rabbi Akiva, it says about him, Nichnas b'shalom, v'yotza b'shalom. He entered in peace, and he left in peace. That means that he was not negatively affected by those deep secrets of the Torah that he learned. So the concept is that entering into the Pardes and experiencing those mystical revelations, that's an experience of yearning to cleave to Hashem. And as a result of that yearning, when a person, so to speak, comes back down to this world, they can find themselves uncomfortable here because they have the feeling that they don't belong here. They belong with Hashem, with the secrets of the Torah, Gan Eden, and so on, which is why Rabbi Ben Azai couldn't handle it, passed away. And Zoma couldn't handle it, he went crazy. Elisha, like we said, became a heretic. So how did Rabbi Akiva manage to have the presence of mind to be able to experience that mystical revelation and come back down and have a safe landing? So the Rebbe examines the words of the Gemara carefully. And the words are Nichnas b'shalom, v'yotza b'shalom. He entered in peace, and he came out in peace. The key to coming out in peace is by entering in peace. He entered with the right attitude, and therefore he was able to safely exit. Meaning to say that even before he experienced that revelation, he already had the attitude that our service of Hashem has to encompass both aspects, that of yearning, that of mysticism, that of a deep devotion to Hashem, and also that of being alive in this world, having a family, paying the bills, bringing Hashem into the workplace. In Hasidic terminology, this is called rotzu v'shuv, yearning to cleave to Hashem and returning to this world. So even before he experienced the rotzu, the yearning, he already had the awareness that there had to be a shuv, there had to be a return to this world. That's how he was able to make a safe landing, because he took off already planning to make that landing, right? When you take off, you have to know how much fuel you have, know where you're landing, know that you have a landing pad, that you have the right equipment to land. Otherwise, you take off and what's your plan? What's your Rabbi
Can't hear you, Rabbi.
Akiva?
We missed that
Sorry,
last
Rabbi,
sentence.
I'm here. Rabbi Akiva had the exit strategy from before he went in, which was why he was able to successfully enter and successfully exit. So this is similar to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's attitude, that he had both the ability to be in the cave, yet after 13 years to come out and to appreciate the level of the common man. Okay. I see you have a few more minutes.
Want to give us a 2 or 3 minute wrap up?
Can I just ask one question if possible?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's just, it should not be a surprise, because in any situation, professionally, socially, even in family situation, if people are coming into any type of new experiences with having unreal expectations, most of the time it ended up in a very bad kind of ending. That's why I think it's the best way to do it is not only to be prepared, but to understand and trying to read and trying to assess all of the possibilities before any decisions. Is it learning or professional skills or anything else to be done? Because in most cases, I like this expression that I heard from, I don't remember, it's one of the scholars. He said that happiness is when your expectations is on the same level with reality. But if it's above, you would never be happy at all, because it's just impossible. In this case, I think it was just maybe, again, the expectations were more than a human mind could actually accomplish.
I hear you. Very good. Okay, so they're wrapping up. Parshas Behar starts very high and it seems to end very low. But the lesson is that we have to take the inspiration from the high point and bring it all the way down to the low point and remain connected to Hashem even in situations that seem less than desirable. And this is relating to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who, despite his great scholarliness and his great level of Torah study and his great mysticism, at the same time, he was able to appreciate, after the 13th year in the cave, he was finally able to appreciate the contribution of the common man, because he saw the advantage of bringing Hashem into this physical world, even though that was not his path in serving Hashem, but he saw that that was also an important path, and he appreciated that path. And that's why he said in the Mishnah, Mishnah number 13, corresponding to the 13th year that he spent in the cave, this idea of the two sides of the coin, the crown of Torah and the crown of the good name, which represents the cleaving to Hashem, yet doing so in a way that lifts up the world. The Torah itself is learned in a way that is appreciated by people, that will be shared with people, and so on. So we learned a lot about the Parsha, we learned about Pirkei Avos, we learned about Lag BaOmer, so much stuff, all in one class. Rabbi Shem Bar Yochai, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir, they were colleagues, by the way, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
My
Rabbi.
pleasure. Have a good Shabbos.
Thank
I
you,
don't know if
Rabbi.
any of you
Bye-bye.
live near Surfside, but my shul is having a Lag BaOmer event at 5 p.m. on Sunday, 8846 Harding Avenue. You're all welcome to join.
Thank you. Thank you.
My
Hatzlacha,
pleasure.
Rabbi.
Bye-bye.
My pleasure. You too.